UFC 297, Strickland versus Duplessis, full card predictions. Starting with the first fight of the night, making my way to the top of the card. First fight is Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy Flick. Um, I'll just be flat out honest with you guys. Jimmy Flick's terrible. Now, I'm gonna go with Malcolm Gordon. However, it's such a weird I don't know if Gordon deserves to be a 2-1 favorite. Just because like both of these guys are really, in my opinion, not UFC caliber. So weird stuff happens when you have guys that are not UFC caliber. On the side of Malcolm Gordon, his last fight lose to Jake Hadley, but any fight that has anything to do with the striking, I don't think you have to worry about when you're looking at Jimmy Flick, because Flick is basically someone that has zero ability in the striking, in the stand up. He's 0-4. He's been knocked out 4 times. He has zero knockout wins on his record, right? So he doesn't finish people by knockout. But what he does do, if you look at his wins, he has 16 wins, 14 of them are by submission, and he's never been submitted himself. Actually, I'm sorry, I said 0-4 to the knockout. He's 0-6 to the knockout. He's been knocked out 6 times, never knocked anyone out. But the guy can grapple. If he can do anything, he can grapple. He can catch people in different, submissions. And Malcolm Gordon, apparently he's a black belt. I don't really see it. I mean, not that I don't see it. He did give Makayev a decent scrap. Where was that? Yeah, he gave Makayev a decent scrap. Got armbarred in the third, but um, I don't know, man. I feel like I got to go with Gordon just because Flick has one path to victory. I feel like if this goes to the cards, I mean, most likely it ends inside the distance. Gordon probably has better striking. Not probably, he does have better striking because Flick's striking is just embarrassing. At the very least, I don't think Gordon has great striking, but he will come forward and like throw heavy shots at Flick. And what Flick does, he just shells up. That's one of the biggest problems with Jimmy Flick. It's like it's not even like if someone trying to press forward at him, he doesn't try to shoot takedowns at that point. What he does is just kind of shells up, just puts his hands up. He doesn't throw anything back. Doesn't basically just lets himself get beat up. Um, Now, obviously, that is because he doesn't really have a striking skill set, and that's kind of what some beginners do, is what Jimmy Flick does, just put their hands up and just cover up because they, when they're getting hit. So, like I said, really don't like his striking. If he does win, it's probably gonna be by sub. So if you're looking at the Jimmy Flick side, you could probably get better value, better odds than plus 170 if you take the Flick by submission prop. But outside of the submission, I think Malcolm Gordon should win the fight. I mean, he's also fought the much higher level of competition. I mean, Flick did Flying Triangle Durden, which looking back is a good win, but he took 3 years off and then comes back and gets finished in the first round by Charles Johnson and then finished by Alessandro Costa. Like getting finished by Charles Johnson and Alessandro Costa, more so Johnson, like getting finished by Charles Johnson is just a terrible look. Johnson's not a finisher, especially at the UFC level. And Flick going down like that easily to Johnson was just not, and it was because he took a few years off, but still, I spent way too much time on a fight that is very low level, but I'll pick Malcolm Gordon. It's also in Canada. So Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira is the next fight. I think the UFC is doing Jasmine a favor here. Her last fight was against Tracy Cortez, in which she lost. Fair enough, it's Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez is a good wrestler, fighting out of Fight Ready. Good fighter, and Tracy, beat her in a fight where it wasn't like Jasmine was just giving up. She was still pressing. Priscilla Cachoeira has no grappling, right? Cachoeira has no grappling. I don't think Cachoeira is going to be able to really put the hands on Jasmine before she gets taken down. Um, she does have that onslaught opportunity. I feel like that's the only opportunity for Priscilla, though. The fight is actually up at bantamweight 135, even though it was scheduled initially to be at 125, but apparently Cachoeira wanted the extra weight, didn't want to have to cut all the weight down to 125. She also has had issues cutting weight in the past. That's been a very common thing with Priscilla Cachoeira. Either missing weight or struggling with weight cuts. I think Jasmine Sudavicius is just a better overall fighter. I don't think there's much more to say than that. Cachoeira, she's got the knockout shot, but outside of the KO, one punch KO, I just think Jasmine's probably got better. I don't want to say like better tech. She probably does have better technical striking. Priscilla Cachoeira is just like a mad woman in there. You know what I mean? So I'll go with Jasmine Sudovicius. Could be submission or could be just takes her down 3 rounds in a row. Should win 30-27. This shouldn't be too competitive as shown. The line indicates she's a pretty heavy favorite. So I do think she gets it done though. This is a complete setup fight that the UFC is giving her. And if you look through Cachoeira's losses, she has 5 losses. 3 of them are by submission. Submission. 7-0 to the knockout, and then 5-2 to the decision. She got armbarred by Miranda Maverick, submitted by Jillian Robertson, lost to Alana Carolina Molly McCann, and then she got submitted by Valentina Shevchenko. So when you just look through her losses, sure, she does have some. She has some wins scattered in there, but her wins aren't really against that high level people. And to give credit to Jasmine, she has been fighting decent level competition. She lost to Natalia Silva, but Natalia Silva is like a pretty. She's 26 years old and she's a pretty good prospect on the rise. Just beat Andrea Lee, like good prospect on the rise. Is who she lost to, and then she lost to another good prospect, Tracy Cortez. I think Priscilla Cachoeira is nowhere close to that level. I think Jasmine, she's definitely taking a step down here, but it's in her home country, and the crowd's going to go crazy for her to get a submission win here. So I think that's what the UFC is setting her up to do. Next fight. Now this is where I'm going to go against Canada for the first time on the card. Johan Lyness, Sam Patterson. I will be going with Sam Patterson here. Now I know the common thing that people have been saying is, listen, man, Sam Patterson's got no chin. How can you trust in Sam Patterson? The dude just got knocked out by by Yanel Ashmus, 9 months ago, however long it was. Yeah, 9 months ago. So to that, I say he did get knocked out, and it was a pretty bad knockout. But for one, he's moving up in weight to welterweight. He was cutting a lot of weight. He's 6'3", with a 78-inch reach, and he was making. I don't know how he made lightweight, but he was draining himself to get there. 6'3". Like the only other guys that are at that height at lightweight, I believe Jalen Turner. I don't know if they're maybe Joel Alvarez. I'm not sure how tall he is, but there's got to be a few. But a lot of them have they struggle. You know what I mean? They struggle to cut the weight. They have missed weight. All both Turner and Alvarez have missed weight in the UFC. So um, Patterson moving up to 170, I think it's a good move for him. He obviously can compete. You know what I mean? He has a skill set where I think he can compete with, at least at the lower level. I think this is definitely the lower level of welterweight. Johan Lyness is probably one of the worst welterweights on the roster. So if Patterson can't get by him, then we know he's clearly just not UFC level, kind of a fraud, because he was pretty hyped coming into the UFC. But I'll say this about Yanel Ashmus. The Yanel Ashmus fight, that it wasn't a good look because he got really hurt. He took so much damage in that fight. But the reason he got knocked out was because he threw kind of like a lazy leg kick. It was caught by Yanal, and then Ashmus threw kind of an overhand right, and then behind it, while Patterson was off balance and kind of trying to catch his footing, he threw a left hook. The left hook clipped him right on the chin, put Patterson down real bad. Um, really hurt Patterson. And then as soon as Patterson got dropped, he wasn't in it. Like he was, about to get finished, but he was still like, he wasn't knocked out cold. As soon as Patterson got dropped though, Ashmuz just got on top of him and started raining down massive, massive ground and pound and ended up finishing the fight. So basically Patterson took twice the amount of damage that he should have, but to Patterson's credit, you know, not really to his credit, but just to say about him, I don't think that's necessarily that he has a terrible chin. I think it's just he got caught with a great shot. I think he does leave his chin out there a little bit too much, but I don't think we can necessarily, at this point, I don't think we can say he has a glass jaw or anything like that. If he gets knocked out badly here, maybe you can say that, but I think we got to give him another shot. So the reason really I'm picking him though against Johan Ines, Lioness has 5 minutes of cardio in pretty much every fight. I went into this fight looking and thinking to myself, I'm gonna pick Johan. That's what I was thinking. And then I watched these guys on tape, and I'm like, dude, Johan Lioness is not a good fighter. He is not UFC caliber. He should have lost to his only win in the UFC to Darian Weeks. He arguably lost the fight, so he should be 8-3 in my opinion. Um, he's just one of those guys where, like, even if he wins this fight, which I think he has a very good possibility of losing if it gets out of the first round. Even if he wins this fight, I just don't see Lioness making any stride. He's already 31. Not that that's old at all. That's actually, he's basically in his prime, 31 years old, but he's not really making a lot of leaps and strides forward. He's kind of just, he is what he is. He's a guy that likes to throw big power. Um, and he loads up on stuff, especially when he gets tired. When he gets tired, he loads up on everything. If Patterson gets caught by it, then, it is what it is. But I got to take the better martial artist. If this does hit round two or round three, which if Patterson doesn't get caught early and it hits the second and third round, Lioness is going to gas out. If it does hit the mat, I think I give Patterson the edge in the grappling. Lioness has just shown he's not necessarily UFC caliber. Against Gabe Green, his first UFC fight, he folded in the second round. He was just so gassed out. Green was hitting him to the body and just ripping him, and he was just so tired. He basically just kind of like fell over and just kind of gave up. I hate to say it, but he did. He kind of fell over, covered up, and just gave up. He didn't, it's not like he got dropped, like knocked out cold or like put to sleep. Like he kind of just, cowered away in the corner. So um, I'm not saying that to like, try to like disrespect him, but I'm calling it as it is. That's what happened. So I'll roll the dice on Sam Patterson, younger guy as well. I'll give him one more shot. If he loses this one, then we know where we stand with him. But for now, I'll give him one last opportunity against a very below average fighter, in my opinion. Next is Jillian Robertson taking on Polyana Viana. For this one, I'm going to go with Jillian Robertson. Polyana Viana is a big underdog, and rightfully so. Jillian, her record isn't, it doesn't look pretty, 12-8, but 13-6. That's not really the greatest looking record either. I mean, it is better than 12-8, but still, records don't really mean everything. And if you look at Polyana Viana, I mean, she's 8-2 to the submission. I don't see her submitting Jillian Robertson. 0-4 to in any fights that go the distance um, in her career. Now, the Lucindo fight, she got submitted by her, which kind of makes me think if she gets submitted by Yasmin Lucindo, can Jillian Robertson not do the same? I have to imagine that Jillian Robertson can do the same. Um, Polyana Viana got knocked out by Jin Frey, or she knocked out Jin Frey, excuse me, back in 2022 in under a minute. And then Tabitha Ricci lost to her, kind of was just not pulling guard. Well, I guess you could say pulling guard. She was just laying on her back, trying to beg Tabitha Ricci to go into her guard. Um, and Ricci, like, it was just a bad luck, just laying on her back. And then she was getting leg kicked, just continued to lay on her back, had no intention of getting up. I just don't think she really, not that she got armbarred by Veronica Hardy in 2019. I think the grappling levels are, I think the grappling should be at a different level. Jillian Robertson is known to be a grappler, known to be a very good grappler. As we all say, the Rose Namajunas, everyone brings it up. The Rose Namajunas grappling match where she submitted Rose in under a minute. She has a lot of her wins are by just getting on top and looking for the submission or ground and pound. Basically, all of her wins, 9 of her 12 wins, are by submission. Trains out of the Goat Shed, really good gym in my opinion. Tough gym too. I don't see Polyana Viana knocking her out. Or really, if this does go, a little bit later on, I do see Robertson being the tougher girl, pushing more, especially to get those takedowns. Not that I think Viana will do that great of a job staying on her feet. I think she probably will accept being on bottom. Um, because her fight IQ is very low, very bad fight IQ. And say what you want about Jillian Robertson, but she knows what she knows where her strengths is, where her strength lies, I should say. Her strength lies in the grappling. Her wrestling isn't the greatest. Her offensive wrestling, or defensive wrestling, to be honest. But I mean, she's at the level where she doesn't really care if she gets taken down just because of her, grappling level. But um, her offensive wrestling, it doesn't look very good at all. Her wrestling's not the highest level, but I don't think her wrestling needs to be that high level to get Viana to the ground. And if she does get on top, I think it's going to be pretty big trouble for Pollyanna, to be honest. So give me Jillian Robertson to win this one. Next prelim is Surrey City versus Ramon Tavares. This is the rematch of the fight that they already had on the Contender Series, in where City knocked out Tavares. Well, he didn't really knock him out. He dropped him, and the ref kind of just called off the fight immediately. Tavares wasn't really knocked out. Like he wasn't. He could have continued. Maybe he would have taken some ground and pound shots, but regardless, the fight was stopped a little bit early. I think we can all kind of agree on that. Even if City was eventually going to win, I think you got to let Ramon, fight. You got to give him another chance. You know what I mean? Just because you get dropped doesn't mean the fight's over. Um, so they are giving him another shot. The thing though is City. This is a fight in Canada. Obviously, City Canadian, so he's going to have the home turf sort of advantage as far as that goes. And then for Ramon Tavares, he won his last fight on the Contender Series versus Cortavius Romius in about 30 seconds. But that was just those two guys swinging. They were just swinging back and forth at each other for 30 seconds of that fight. I know it was only 30 seconds, but it was a damn entertaining 30 seconds to say the least. Those guys were, swinging leather at each other, trying to, take each other's heads off. Both of them looking for the knockout. And, Ramon was the one that clipped Cortavius and got him out of there. So good. I don't want to say really a good win. I don't know how high level Cratavius is, but if you look at the rest of Ramon's fights, he's not fighting good competition at all. In fact, most of his competition is either 50-50 competition or worse. James Dunn, 50-50 fighter. Charles Bennett, um, losing record fighter. Martin Day, 50-50. So he's basically only fought losing record fighters or 50-50 fighters his entire career, right? So he hasn't really fought anyone. The best people he's ever fought was his last two fights. The Cortavius guy was just swinging at him. He had no defense, leaving his chin up in the air. He was just basically whichever one of us gets knocked out, gets knocked out. That was basically the agreement they made because they were just swinging at each other with no care for defense. City, I think, is the better fighter. He won the first fight, clipped him right on the chin, dropped him. Um, would he have finished him eventually or won the fight? I think, even if the ref didn't call the fight, even if the ref didn't wave it off after the first knockdown, I think eventually City would have won the fight either by ground and pound right after that knockdown or just by, winning the moments in general um, on the feet because I feel like he can do that and will do that in this fight. So the line is, minus 180. I think that's pretty fair. He's also you can't really mention age in this one because they're both young guys in their careers. But um, yeah, I'm going to go Surrey City here to beat Ramon Tavares for the second time. Charles Air Jourdain versus Sean Woodson. This is not the feature prelim. There's one more prelim. The second to feature prelim, Jourdain, Sean Woodson. I'm going with Charles Jourdain here. I'm going Charles Jourdain. Um, this is really just me because I'm just basically anti Sean Woodson. Um, I don't know. I just don't like Sean Woodson at all. I haven't picked Dennis. This was a bad pick. I picked Dennis Bazooka to beat him, which was in hindsight, it's not a good pick at all. It's one of the worst ones I've had of the year, especially on short notice. Bazooka taking that, but to my defense, like I just think Woodson's bad. Like not bad. Like he has UFC wins, so I can't say he's like a bad fighter, but I don't think he's on this like next level. I think Charles Jourdain will show him that there's levels to this. I know Jourdain is 15-6. Like he has some close fights. He is 2-5 in fights that go the distance, but the guy's fought good. Like the guys that he's losing to, Jourdain, he's only losing like pretty good guys. I mean, he lost a split to Andre Fili in 2020. Josh Koibal, all right, solid fighter. Julian Rosa lost by Darce to him in 2021. Nathaniel Wood and Shane Burgos, like these are all, you could argue some of them aren't top 15, but the last two, like Shane Burgos was in 2022. Um, well, I guess he is a little bit at this point past his prime, but either way, Jourdain's fought the better level of competition. He's lost to some, he's beaten some. He's still only 28 years old. Some of the guys he's lost to in the past, you could chalk some of those up to him just, not having that same level of experience. Because if you look back, to some of his losses in the past, like the Andre Fili fight in 2020, 24-year-old Charles Jourdain. If you look, he has a few other losses. Like the dude's still a pretty young guy in the sport, and he's already an experienced UFC fighter, even more experienced fighter than Sean Woodson, younger fighter with more experience. Um, I do like Jourdain in this spot. Jourdain can chew up the legs of Woodson. Woodson's got like toothpick legs because he's 6'2" at featherweight. Like I don't know how he makes the weight. Like he's just skin and bones all over. So I think Jourdain should invest in the body. I think if he wants to win this fight, what he should do is, I also think he's a better grappler if it goes there. I do think he has a better grappling skill set. Um, if that were to play out that way, but even in the striking, I think you got to chop the legs down. You know what I mean? Like Sean Wilson's type of guy, just chop the legs, and then try to work the body. Because if he does that, I can see him winning the fight. And even the chin of Sean Woodson, he almost got finished by Luis Saldana. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget the fact that Sean Woodson nearly should have gotten finished by Luis Saldana. Um, Lost to Julian Rosa. His wins in the UFC haven't really aged that well. Bazooka win hasn't aged well. Luis Saldana draw, or it was a split draw. Should have lost the fight by TKO if Luis Saldana wasn't an idiot and just jumped on him right away. Colin Anglin, Yusuf Salau. So yeah, the guy's not really fighting the highest level of competition, and a lot of the times he's fighting close fights with them. So I think Jourdain's a big step up. I think Jourdain wins this one. Another guy, also another Canadian. So give me Charles Air Jourdain. I think they're setting him up for a winnable fight. This one, I'm going to be opposite of everyone on this one. I'm just going to say that right away. Brad Katona, Garrett Armfield. 9% of people are picking Garrett Armfield. 91% are picking Katona. I can't do it. I can't pick Katona. I just, at these odds, if this was a pick 'em, if it was like, even odds and, you're just picking who I think, maybe I would say, oh, Katona, but, you know, Garrett Armfield at nearly 2-1 underdog odds. Sure, the grappling is Katona's got the better grappling. Katona, we've seen Katona work for 3 rounds. Garrett Armfield still is kind of he's very unproven. So this could be just me shooting, just taking a shot in the dark, but I'm okay with it. I don't think Katona is, he's UFC level. He's definitely UFC level. He beat Timur Valiev. I thought Valiev won that fight. I'll be completely honest. I thought Timur Valiev deserved to win that. I think it was a bad decision, to be honest. I really do think it was a bad call by the judges to give that to Brad Katona. But if you look at Katona's last fight against Cody Gibson, the Cody Gibson fight in the striking, it was 29-28 based off rounds 2 and 3. Katona won. I mean, I just don't, at over 2-1, over 2-1 odds for Katona. Most of his fights go the distance, and he's like slightly edging, like barely edging out the fight. And sometimes he goes to he goes to split. Sometimes he has very close fights. Garrett Armfield, I know Garrett Armfield's gonna like press him in the striking. If this does play out on the feet, if Brad Katona if this fight plays out the same way as the Cody Gibson fight, I think Garrett Armfield wins. And one fight that I found that I think Garrett Armfield can look at and kind of resemble that is the Hunter Azure fight. Now, yes, that was a few years back. That was back in 2019, so it was a long time ago. So you really have to do look back quite a while to see Katona losing. But I think Armfield can kind of implement that strategy of, you know, if he like Katona, he has a good chin. He recovers very well. That's one thing he does. Even if he gets dropped, he recovers very well. But if Garrett Armfield can drop him, right? Garrett Armfield's got power. Definitely has power in his hands. I think he's the more powerful guy of the two if these guys are exchanging strikes. Um, and if Armfield clips him and drops him, that could give in a close round. That could give him the round. Um, so in a fight that I think will be a stand-up fight for the most part, Garrett Armfield's also training at Marathon MMA. So that's a gym with Trey Ogden, Miles Johns, I believe. I know he's been getting work in with him. I saw who else trains there. Isaac Dolgarian was training there. I don't know if he still does, but so there's some killers. There's some real good guys at that gym, grapplers and strikers. So I think Armfield's getting good training in for this one. I think his style is perfect to beat Katona. As weird as it sounds, like I know, like just looking at these guys, Armfield hasn't really fought a great level of competition. The best guy he fought was Onama, and he lost. And if you look at his record, a lot of people will probably pick against him also because it's like whenever he takes a step up, he seems to not do great. But the Mateo Vogel fight, like the Vogel fight, he was looking really good in the first round. He was beating the brakes off of Vogel. And then the second round, he was beating the brakes off him too. And then, just made a mistake in the grappling, got his back taken, got submitted. He was winning the fight up until then. The David Onama fight, he took the David Onama fight on short notice up a weight class, and he was winning the first round. He won the first round against David Onama. Second round, David Onama ended up submitting him. David Onama is a big guy for featherweight, and that was up a weight class. Now Armfield's down at the weight class of bantamweight versus Katona. He's got a reach edge, and I think Armfield, is improving in his striking. 27 years old. Um, yeah, I like Armfield. I know it's an unpopular opinion this week. Almost everyone's on Katona, but I feel like that one of these guys is gonna, one of these underdogs it's gonna be. I feel like the underdog that nobody's looking at is Armfield, so I think that's one that can realistically happen. There's some other guys that have a potential possibility um, of winning, but I think Armfield's a decent one. Main card, opening up the main card is actually a really, really good fight. Arnold Allen versus Movsar Evloev. Now, I see people. Arnold Allen is actually the Tapology favorite. 59% of people are picking Allen. 41% are picking Evloev. I see a lot of very respected people in the community as far as people that make picks and bets and everything, picking Arnold Allen. And I respect their pick. I understand why you're picking Arnold Allen, and I get it. He's a good underdog. I completely agree that he's a good underdog. But there's some fights that I saw that just make me believe Movsar Evloev's going to beat him. Case in point, I know he's improved since then, so I don't want to call him out on a fight that happened a long time ago. But we have to be honest. Even though he won the fight, the Mads Burnell fight, he was getting taken down at will, taken down over and over at will by Mads Burnell. Mads Burnell is not the level of Movsar Evloev. Movsar Evloev's a different level of wrestler, and he can push a pace. Training out of ATT, he's on the juice. Let's be honest. I don't know what he's on, like EPO, whatever. I think it's probably EPO. EPO is the main is how guys kind of can push for 3 rounds at the same pace at its same pace in the third round as they were going in the first round, sort of thing. I think Movsar Evloev will be able to push for 3 rounds. I think he'll have the better cardio if he is pushing a heavy wrestling pace over Arnold Allen, because I do think Allen does clearly tire if when he's in those type of heavy grappling exchanges and when you're mixing things up on him. Now, I'm not saying he's like he doesn't give up on himself. That's why he is a good underdog, because he's not going to give up. He's going to keep pressing. The Max Holloway fight, he fought until the very final bell. He threw everything, he did what he could to win the fight, ended up losing, but gave a good account of himself. I don't think he's going to quit here. I just think Evolev's just an elite fighter. I think he's going to take him down over and over. Similar to the Mads Burnell fight. Like I said, I know it was a long time ago, but that was, a telltale. And even Makwan Amirkhani was taking him down multiple times. I did a deep dive on this just to see, like, because I didn't want to watch his last few fights against strikers. I wanted to see, like, I want to see this guy fight grapplers, fight wrestlers. And when I saw him fight Amir Khani, when I saw him fight Mads Burnell and get taken down multiple times, I didn't think it would be good against a guy like Evloev. Now, one thing, if you're on the Allen side and you're looking for a prop, I would say one prop that's interesting is the Allen by submission prop. If you are on that side, I'm personally picking Mavsar, just because I think Mavsar will have the wrestling to, and the cardio to outlast Allen for 3 rounds. But if you do like Allen, maybe the submission, it's probably pretty good value just because Mavsar is going to be shooting a lot of takedowns. And you know what happens when people shoot a lot of takedowns, there's always chance that they get submitted or someone grabs the neck, jumps on the guillotine. So, you know, if you like Allen, maybe that's the way you're going with it, but I'm going with Evloev. I just think he's next up. Um, I'll give you guys, you know what? I'll give you guys, if you guys have been watching this long, I've probably been talking for like 45 minutes now. If you're still watching this, thank you guys. But I'll give you sort of a preview on a future card. I think Movsar Evloev will be fighting against Ilya Taporia. I think Ilya Taporia, Movsar Evloev, both undefeated fighters, will be squaring off against each other later this year. So that'll be my prediction of a future title fight, and I would love to see that fight. Next fight on the main card is Chris Curtis, the Action Man, versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Um, I'm going with the Action Man, Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis is a dog. Chris Curtis is a really, really good fighter. Mainly, I know he's getting older, and he's not on that level anymore. He can't compete, in my opinion. He can't really compete with um, the best, like the best of the best. I think will be able to defeat him because I don't want to say Curtis is completely one dimensional, but he's in a way he is because he's not much of a he can't really offensively grapple too much, or we haven't seen that from him at least. We never he doesn't really shoot any takedowns. He's not a grappler, not a wrestler at all. In fact, he's basically the opposite. He's a counter wrestler, and he is very good at stopping takedowns. Barrios not going to be able to out grapple him. That's not what I see happening in this one. What I do see happening is what Marc-Andre Barrios always does, which is press forward and look to kind of, just pour the pace on Chris Curtis. That's usually what Marc Andre does. Now, the problem with that is Chris Curtis is a counter puncher. He's a counter striker who has very, very, like powerful hands and fast hands too, if he catches you. Um, Curtis, he has very good boxing. I think his boxing is um, really good. Like him training with Sean Strickland obviously helps him. Him training at Extreme Couture with all those high level training partners certainly, keeps his striking at the highest, at a good level, keeps his boxing as good as it is. Um, but like I said, I don't know if Curtis can compete with some of the top, top 10, top 15 guys, but I don't think Marc Andre is. I just don't see him as that level. He's only really beaten guys that are, you know, in the UFC, he's 5-5. And what are his UFC wins over? Eric Anders, okay. I mean, it's Eric Anders. That was a close fight. That was a close, very close, very competitive fight. Beat Julian Marquez by standing TKO. Just poured on. I don't see him doing that to Chris Curtis. I would be very shocked. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez lost to him. No real shame there. Fluffy is he pushes the pace even better than Marc Andre. Beat Jordan Wright and then lost to Cheaty. Um, if you really just look through his record though, he only beats guys that I feel like are not on that next level. And I know what I just said. I just said Chris Curtis isn't really on that top 15 level anymore. But I still think I don't think he's completely lost it. You know what I mean? I think Curtis is he is starting to slow down a little bit. He's had 40 professional fights. He's 36 years old, been in the game a long time. But it isn't like Marc Andre hasn't been in the game a long time either and taken some damage. I think Chris Curtis wins. I think he's a better striker. I think he either knocks out Mark. I think he probably knocks out Marc Andre Barrio, to be honest. I think Curtis bounces back. Like I said, against Nasruddin Nimavov, Kelvin Gastelum, top 15 guys, Jack Hermanson, even top 10 guys, top 10, top 15 guys, he might struggle. I don't think Marc Andre's at that level, so give me Chris Curtis to win over Marc Andre Barrio. I'll say by knockout. Neil Magny versus proper Mike Malott. Um, Mike Malott. Am I the person that's gonna? Do I dare do it? Do I dare pick Magny? Oh man, the whole week I've been wanting to pick Magny so bad. I'm like, it's so tempting. Plus 300 on Neil Magny over Mike Malott. Oh man, it's like they're like begging me to take Magny. Um, dude, I'm gonna go with Malott. If I'm wrong though, if Magny wins this fight and I don't pick him, it's just gonna kill me inside. But man, Malott is. I just you look at the guys that Malott has fought, and it doesn't even compare to the guys that Magny's fought. Let's be real. You know, to start, just to look through his record, this is interesting for Mike Malott. He loses a fight 2014 to Hakeem Dawodu at featherweight, right? And then he ends up going to lightweight. He fights at lightweight for a fight, and then takes 3 years off, and then comes back at welterweight. So he moved from 45 all the way to 70 over the course of his career. Now he's fighting at 170. Beat Solomon Renfro, won on the Contender Series, beat Mickey Gall, Johan Ines, Adam Fugit, or as I like to say, Adam Fugit. Um, he hasn't beaten anyone. He hasn't beaten anyone that's even close to Neil Magny. Not that Magny's some world beater, best guy. He's not. But Neil Magny is an experienced UFC veteran. Neil Magny is a guy that, you know, regardless of what people say about him, regardless of if he's gets submitted sometimes or is a boring fighter or whatnot. And even I have said those things in the past, that he is kind of boring sometimes. He's not really looking to finish guys. Like, that's not his game plan. He kind of wants to wear guys out, maybe get them tired and win over the 3 rounds. Malott's never been the distance. Magny is 17-3 in fights that go the distance. So if this fight goes to the cards, I think Magny probably wins the fight. But Mike Malott he always has that opportunity to submit Neil Magny early on. And that's the thing that's like kind of telling me the only reason I'm not picking Neil Magny here is because of this. 6 losses by submission. Lost to Gilbert Burns, lost to Shavkat, lost to Chiesa, not by sub, but lost to Chiesa. Um, and then he lost to RDA back in the day. So he does have a lot of sub losses. Mike Malott, that's what he does best. Mike Malott, he's a very good grappler, very talented. I think if he gets Neil Magny to the ground, he'll be able to submit him. So, and Magny, like as I said, we just haven't seen him do very well against guys that are really good grapplers that are able to get him to the ground. So I got to go with him a lot for that reason. Um, I'm definitely not like this number is just way too wide though, minus 380. If anything, the value is all on Magny at plus 300. So the picks Malott. I'll lean Malott, but the only reason I'm not picking, like I said, the only reason I'm not picking Magny is because there's a clear way to win for Malott. It's just get Magny to the ground, get on top of him and look to submit him because he can get submitted by guys that are good grapplers, but it's dangerous, man. Malott hasn't fought anyone good, and Magny, say what you want, he is pretty good. He's been in the UFC a long time, so I'll go with Malott, but I have a weird feeling about it. So if I were you guys, I wouldn't be, going heavy on Mike Malott and putting him in all your parlays or whatever you guys want to do. Just warning you. Um, Co-main event for the vacant bantamweight championship: Raquel Pennington versus Myra Shitara Bueno Silva. I'll take Myra Bueno Silva here. Um, I just think the only reason I'm taking Bueno Silva is because she has, well, not really the only reason. She has multiple ways to win. She could win by submission, and that's how she wins a lot of her fights is by sub. She could also win by knockout, or if it goes a distance, if it goes a distance, Raquel Pennington is probably the one. Um, if Shitara, Myra Bueno Silva can't finish Raquel Pennington, if it goes a distance, maybe Raquel's just outpointing her. But the bigger moments in the fight probably go to Bueno Silva. Bueno Silva definitely, she likes to capitalize on mistakes made, like the Holly Holm fight. Caught Holly Holm in a ninja choke. I know that was overturned because I think Bueno Silva took some like I forget what she took, but for some reason the fight was overturned. I don't think it was like an actual PED. I think it was more of like an anxiety medicine or something like that she took. I forget what it was, but she took something, and the apparently it was banned. But she's in this fight not too long after, so she wasn't obviously suspended for any amount of time. Um, but yeah, I just think she has more finishing ability than Raquel Pennington in this fight. Younger fighter, 32 to 35. Not too much of an age gap, so I don't, it's not like that's the biggest deal in the world. But I don't know if this is for men's only, men's title fights, but the 35-year-old in title fight thing that's been going around, it might be just men's divisions. I'm not sure if it's women's, but I know for a fact it's men's, but I don't know if it's women's as well. Fighters over 35 or older usually don't do very well in title fights, historically speaking. But for this one, you know, I'll roll with that side. I'll roll with the Myra Bueno Silva side. I think she'll have the bigger moments in the fight. So if it does go to the cards, I could even see like maybe Raquel Pennington, ahead on the numbers, but Bueno Silva either catches her in something or lands like a big shot and drops her, something like that, where it kind of sways everyone's opinion of, oh, Pennington's winning the round to Bueno Silva just walling around just by knocking her down or just by doing this or that. So moment winner, I believe, will be Bueno Silva. Um, Maybe the minute winner is Pennington, but I see too many different ways that Bueno Silva can snatch victory, especially if she gets her to the ground and can get her grappling game going. And lastly, we have the main event of the evening. Sean Tarzan Strickland. Well, I don't even know if he goes by Tarzan. I don't think he goes by Tarzan anymore. Versus Dricus Du Plessis. This is the fight that we've been waiting for. Very, very, very good fight. I've been waiting for this. The odds are even now. Strickland was a favorite. Now the odds are completely even. So money has come in on Dricus Du Plessis. I will be honest. I am not one of those people. I am on the side of Sean Strickland to beat Dricus. And more people are picking Dricus. That is interesting to me. 53% of people on here are picking Du Plessis, with only 47% on the side of Sean Strickland. Now, here's why I'm picking Sean Strickland. Um, I'll say this: Du Plessis, undefeated in the UFC so far. I get why people are picking him. I do. I'm not gonna, tell you not to pick him. I'm not gonna tell you anything like that. I'll tell you, you know what? Dricus is a very good fighter. If he beats Sean Strickland, maybe it's meant to be. Maybe everything's been lining up all along that Dricus was going to be the champion. And if he is, you know what? I'll say I was wrong. I'll admit I was wrong, and I'll probably pick him if Dricus beats Sean. I'll probably pick him in his next fight if he fights Izzy, Adesanya. But we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. I don't even think he wins this fight. I think Sean Strickland wins. Here's why: Strickland better on the feet. Technically, I know that hasn't really mattered much for Dricus because he's just one of those guys where he'll just keep pressing forward and throwing big power at you. And he hurt Whitaker and ended up finishing him. I think to get Sean out of there, you got to put him out. I don't think Sean is the guy that's going to be TKO'd against the cage like Whitaker. Sean's just too. I just think he's too not even too prideful. I think he's just too skilled to just get lit up by Dricus against the cage and just you know, kind of just shell up against the cage. I just don't see it happening for a guy like Sean. Sean's very defensively sound. Now he probably will get cracked a few times by Dricus early, but I think his chin's pretty good. Sean's, his chin has held up pretty well, except for the Alex Pereira fight. Alex Pereira's he's knocked out a ton of guys though. He stopped Izzy, he stopped, other guys. And Sean Strickland himself, we just saw him drop Izzy. So, Strickland, he doesn't have he's not known for his power, but the guy, if he hits you clean on the chin, he can hurt you. And so that's the one thing with Strickland. The other thing with Strickland is not only do I think he's a better technical striker and very defensively sound, he trains with better guys. Not that Dricus isn't getting good training because I'm sure he is, but Strickland trains with guys like Magomedov Ankalaev, guys that are killers, guys that are even if you're training with Magomedov Ankalaev and you can hold your own in the grappling, and by hold your own I mean not get completely ragdolled by Ankalaev, who's a bigger fighter than you are, up a weight class. Like he's a weight class bigger, so if you're holding your own against him, I don't think Dricus will be able to ragdoll Sean. Maybe early in the fight, like first round, I could see Dricus maybe taking him down, having some success early. But Strickland's a very, very underrated grappler. Um, I think Strickland will stay safe in the grappling exchanges. Even if Dricus has early success, I think Dricus probably wins the first round. I think Dricus starts really fast, but he will slow down every fight. Every single fight, he slows down. He gets tired. He starts breathing heavily, and you could see it start to. It doesn't affect him. He pushes through being tired, and you could tell. Like even if he's tired, he's going to keep pushing. He's going to keep trying to win. But against Sean Strickland, who's got really good cardio and has been 5 rounds in the UFC multiple times. Dricus has never been 5 rounds in the UFC. He has been 5 rounds before, not in the UFC. Sean has. Sean is a much more experienced 5 round fighter. I think he's got much better cardio. I think Sean Strickland is a smarter fighter. We've seen Dricus make a ton of mistakes as far as, even though he's won the fights, he's won these fights. But the fight against Derek Brunson, where was that? The fight against Derek Brunson, pulling himself in the mount. Well, didn't he pull himself in a bottom? Yeah, he pulled himself basically in a bottom mount, if I'm not mistaken. It was either bottom mount or bottom. Like he pulled himself onto the bottom, trying to go for like a lat drop. I'm like, he makes mistakes, man, and if you can't afford to make those type of mistakes against Strickland. Um, not that Strickland's like a guy that finishes people, but if you're making those type of mistakes against Strickland, like he'll capitalize. If he gets on top of you, like he'll start raining down strikes. He doesn't, he'll take what he can get. Um, yeah, man, I just think that Strickland, he's also, Dricus, this is also, you could say this criticism isn't fair to say about Dricus, but you look at his UFC competition, it's been kind of like not tailored for him to win because the Whitaker fight absolutely was not tailored for him to win. But the rest of them, I mean, Trevin Giles beats him, finishes him. Then he fights Brad Tavares, who's a kind of a top 15 gatekeeper type of guy. Beats Brad Tavares, fights Darren Till, who was 1 foot out the door, beats him. Um, Derek Brunson beats him. Looked like he was gassing out though. He also gassed out bad after beating the crap out of Darren Till in round one. Looked pretty bad. I lost round two and then submitted him. Darren Till, like, I don't know. The Whitaker fight was his best performance. That Whitaker fight is why he is the minus 110 to minus 110. Without that Whitaker performance, I don't know. I just maybe I'm just not a believer. Maybe Dricus will make me a believer after this fight, but I like Sean Strickland. I like Strickland. Everything I'm seeing tells me that Sean can do this. Um, he's got that cardio, and I think cardio is a big deal here. I think cardio is a big deal because if this gets into four and rounds five, and like especially round five, if it's two apiece going into round five, I'll bet on Sean Strickland being the more conditioned fighter, being able to go, the guy that spars every single day in the gym, the guy that's up against these world class Magomed Ankalaev, Chris Curtis, all these elite, high level UFC fighters in the gym. I'm pretty sure he's got Dolidze in the gym. I'm not sure about Vittori. Like he's got good middleweights and light heavyweights in the gym training with him all the time. Johnny Eblin was one of his main training partners for this camp. Um, Johnny Eblin is one of the best middleweights on the planet. I think that's a great training partner for a guy like Dricus. Johnny Eblin's a guy that pushes the pace, great wrestler, great fighter, doesn't really get tired. ATT guy as well. That was helping Sean in Vegas. So yeah, I like Sean Strickland here. Um, and I think at even odds, maybe that would be worth a bet on Strickland. All right, UFC 297, Strickland versus Duplessis. Talked about this one for a while. Very interesting card. To those of you that watched until the end, thank you very much. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.